This time on Roadkill Garage, it is the tunnel cram big block Chevy in my Pro Street Nova.
Boogieing down the track with 1,000+ horsepower.
Yeah! It's the first time I've ever owned my own Pro Street car, and it is the worst hood scoop in the history of this show.
I know, but you've been looking for a Pro Street car for ages.
A long time, and finally, this one was perfect. And on this episode, we're gonna have to throw an engine, transmission, drive shaft, headers, exhaust, everything on this thing and make it run and drive. It's really gonna be street strip. It's not gonna be a full-on dedicated drag car. It's gonna be something that I can cruise around. Later on, I do want to change the thing up. I would like to make it a full-on street cruiser. I'd like to make it a really hardcore drag car, but for this episode, it's gonna be a tweener, but with an engine that's pretty absurd.
One thing you may not realize, Freiberger,
Yeah?
is you actually picked up one of my favorite things.
What?
A Nova drag car.
Really?
Yes.
I had no idea. Is it because it's a Chevy Duster?
Well, basically, I mean, look at it. It's really cool. This is the style of Nova that I really like. So,
Yeah, cool.
yeah, all we need is the right engine and it'll just be over the top.
I think I need to explain to the audience, though, what does Pro Street even mean? Have you noticed how, like, the kids these days don't understand?
How could you not know what Pro Street is?
I don't know. I see people all the time. If it's a drag car, they go, oh, it's Pro Street. It's not. I'll explain why. I'm also going to tell you exactly why I bought this particular car. And then I think we can reveal the engine we're going to be installing.
Can I give them a little hint?
What?
You might have seen it before.
Ooh, he's right. This is my brand new, to me, 1969 Chevy Nova, and it's really everything that I was looking for in a Pro Street car. But what is Pro Street? It began in about 1969 when drag racers figured out that instead of cutting big holes in their quarter panels to fit giant drag racing slicks, they could instead do that thing with tubbing it and moving the tires up under a factory quarter panel. In 1970, the NHRA introduced a class called Pro Stock that was an extension of stock class cars at the time, and all of those things were tubbed. And that was inspiration for guys to do the same thing for street cars. And in the late 80s, you started seeing some tubbed cars on the street, especially guys building cars just like a NHRA Pro Stock race car, but running it on the street. And later, in the very late 70s, early 80s, it became a show car trend. Now, there's two kinds of Pro Street cars, one of which is called a back half. Basically, it's a tube chassis from the firewall back for the huge tires. And then there's also what's called a full tube chassis car, which is fabricated frame from the front all the way to the back. The reason I got this particular car is that it is built very much like those early 90s drag racing Pro Street cars. That means it's a back half. The front suspension is stock concept. It actually has a full Martz chassis front suspension, which is all tubular. That wouldn't have existed in the 90s. The back half has got a 4-link in it and a Ford 9-inch, and of course, giant tubs for those tires, which are a 14.5 32. The other thing that was really critical for me is that it's drag strip legal. This thing is NHRA safety teched up to an ET of 8.5 seconds in the quarter mile. It has a full roll cage, and as you'll see, seats, harnesses, all that stuff. And that was also really important to me. Now I'm gonna show you the engine we're gonna install in this thing. Ha-ha! This is the tunnel cram motor. It's a 555 cubic inch big block Chevy, and it runs from 1,000 to 1,500 horsepower. Let me tell you the entire story of this thing from top to bottom. The greatness begins with two Holley Dominator XP series carburetors. They're 1,050 CFM each. The supercharger is an 871 from the blower shop, and it has all their trick guts in the thing. It's fantastic. Now, the thing that makes this different than most supercharged engines is the tunnel cram part of it. The supercharger is bolted on top of a Profiler tunnel ram. The cylinder heads on this are AFR's 357cc inlet runner unit. units. Now, the compression on it is only 8.3 to 1. This was built a long time ago when you would run really low compression for boost. The displacement's 555 cubic inches. That's a 4.56-inch bore and a 4.25-inch stroke. The camshaft is a big old Hankin solid roller. The duration at 50 thousandths tappet lift is 281, 290. The lift, 800 on the intake, 782 on the exhaust, and 114-degree lobe separation angle. Now, the reasons that I'm bonded to this thing are like multifold. First of all, the whole long block, cam and everything is the exact same engine that I ran at the Bonneville Salt Flats with a 1471 supercharger on it. It made about 1,300 horsepower, and I went 251 miles an hour and set a record at the Bonneville Salt Flats with that combination. And honestly, I haven't even freshened the motor up since then. Right now it's making 8 pounds of boost on gasoline, and it makes 869 pound-feet of torque at 4,700 RPM, and it makes 1,000+ horsepower at 6,700 RPM. So I'm super stoked on this, but I'm gonna have to talk to Dulcich and figure out where we begin to start assembling this thing into my '69 Nova.
Well, I've never even looked under the hood. Let's get rid of this. You're not gonna use it anyway.
Oh, I hope it never goes on the car again.
It won't.
I told everybody all about the tunnel cram.
I know.
I'm stoked on it.
I like the tunnel cram.
Yeah, it's gonna make this car kind of like both a street strip car and a ridiculous fairground cruiser all at the same time.
Well, I had to convince you on the tunnel cram.
You did. I couldn't get another hood in time for the episode, though.
We don't need a hood. We've got a gigantic motor.
The guy I got this from had a small block in it. He pulled the engine and trans out and left everything else. It's got radiator, wiring, fuel system, drive shaft for a Turbo 400.
It's my first look, and it actually looks pretty good. You know what else I like?
What?
This bulkhead fitting here puts the coil inside the car. Yeah.
This is a Martz subframe. It bolts into the stock location. I hope it's much lighter. It's got rack and pinion steering and coilovers.
It looks a lot lighter.
Yeah.
Actually, that center thing's pretty thick. It's like 1/4 inch thick.
Here's another old friend. It's the Gearstar Turbo 400 automatic transmission, originally built for the Clevo Commando. You remember that project? It was my Jeep Commando. I think it was a 72, and we started to put a 650 horsepower Ford Cleveland engine in it, and so Gearstar built this full manual valve body Turbo 400 for that thing. Sadly, yes, I gave up on the Clevo Commando. It's gone. This has been sitting in my garage ever since then. It has a bell housing on it right here that is designed to convert it for the Cleveland. I ended up getting an Ultra Bell here. This is the cool thing these days is you can buy these automatic transmission bell housings and adapt your Turbo 400 or Powerglide or C4 or whatever to almost any engine up front. You can get them for Toyota 2JZ, small block Chevy, I mean, everything. I need to rip this one off and install this one. The way they work is that they are bolted on to the bolts around the front pump in the transmission, and you do have to cut the stock bell housing off or mill it off, as it looks like Gearstar did. And all that work's been done for me, so I just have to do an R&R here. Okay, that's on. All right, that's all we need. We need to get this off, right? My torque converter isn't here yet, but I'm going to install the flywheel anyway because we need to move forward even if we have to back up later. My concern being that the holes in this flex plate might not be big enough for the holes in the torque converter. Could be 3/8 versus 7/16. This is an SFI approved flex plate, and it is required for the drag strip. And here's a tech tip. When you grease them, you cannot also use Loctite. The Loctite basically won't serve its purpose and will just turn into goo in there for absolutely no reason. Wow, this thing's heavy. Normally, I would take off the supercharger and have much shorter chains and much lower lift height, but Steve says this will work. Yikes, this is scary. This is worse than an Ironhead Hemi.
Is it?
What is the deal? All right, is this gonna go?
Oh, yeah.
It needs to go higher, doesn't it?
You're going crooked.
I just want to get it someplace where we can lower it again.
Yeah, I know, but you got to pull this around. Here, let me drive the car.
Go ahead. Okay, now that's way off center. Okay, stop there.
Here we go.
Man, we haven't even removed the radiator from the car. This is kind of incredible. And stop. We've got the engine about halfway in because we're looking for that feeling of satisfaction when you drop the engine in for the first time. Here's the thing, you can save a lot of money buying somebody else's old race car. It's like way cheaper than building one from scratch, but you have to make a lot of stuff your own. Here's something I would have never done in a million years is mounted the line lock or the roll control right here on the roll bar at a weird angle like this that puts the lines way over here that is preventing me from getting a header in. Now maybe we can get the header in from the bottom, especially if we remove that steering shaft, but this is stupid. Straight OD stupid. Cherry picker coming out. Now we're gonna try and fit the headers up in here. And as you can see, I went full street car with this. These are 2 1/4 inch tubes with a 4-inch collector on a slip fit. And look how short they are. These are for high RPM performance. But with the blower, it'll make up for all the low end torque that I need. Question is, will these fit with this aftermarket Martz chassis? It sure looks wide open, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. There's a lot of room there.
If it'll get past that column, it'll go, right?
We need to go higher on number 7.
What do we got going on there? Because right now
it's right on the column, isn't it?
Yeah, it's caught up on the column now.
It's caught between the column and the stud.
We've reached a huge frustration point, which is that the header that I got is not gonna fit at all. It's hitting the stock steering column, which I don't get because it's for a Nova application. But the other thing is we've got this aftermarket whole front suspension with the rack and pinion and everything, and the column is gonna have to go right through one header tube. It's beyond us being able to just move a tube, so I'm not feeling great right now. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
One of the things I want to do is make it so when you step on the gas, this thing goes. And to get there, this throttle cable is just going to be too short to even reach the bracket up here. So I've got this one. It's way longer. That's going to take care of that problem. This thing right now is a push type linkage. I got to make it so it pulls. That's an easy deal. All I have to do is flip that arm around, and I'll have to make some kind of mounting bracket to attach the cable to this.
The header fitment is a mess, and so I called Martz Chassis this morning, who makes this subframe, and they gave me a couple part numbers of headers, and I'm getting those overnighted. I hope that those actually fit. Here's the existing fuel system in the car. First, it has a little tiny 5-gallon fuel cell. Obviously, I'm gonna need a bigger cell to drive this on the street because 5 gallons will get that supercharger 1 mile down the road. And I'm not even kidding. So I need a bigger cell. So it's got the little cell and it's got an ancient Mallory fuel pump that has the return directly in it and it goes back to the tank. So coming up here, I've only got one -10 line feeding this Holley regulator that just has 2 outlet ports. And so I think what I'm going to do with the parts that I have around is figure out how to get fuel from this car's existing fuel system into both of those carburetors. Meanwhile, Steve is over there figuring out the linkage because he's the undisputed master at throttle linkage.
What I have here is a piece of flat steel bar. I'm gonna make the bracket that affixes the blower end of the cable. Now, it may look overkill because that's 1/4 of an inch thick, but that takes a lot of force. So I'm gonna take this, bend it to the angles I need, and then drill a few holes, and I'll have a fabricated bracket.
I've figured out how I'm gonna plumb this fuel system, and I'm gonna do it all in braided stainless steel line and AN fittings. Let's talk about that a little bit. AN means Army, Navy, and it also means braided stainless line and some special fittings. They have special threads on them, and basically they have a little taper in here that when you stick the hose through and thread it together, it crimps the end of the hose and makes a really good high pressure connection. What I'm gonna do is take some -8 out of the regulator, gather them together, and I found a fuel log right here, and I'm gonna end up screwing it on so that I've got -8 in here and then 6 out to the carburetors. All right, here we go.
I want to give you a Roadkill Garage top tip. Now, I fabricated this bracket, and there's a hole in the end of it where the cable goes through. Now, the problem you're going to have is once you affix the end to the cable, it won't pull through the hole anymore, and you have to dismantle the other end. But if you cut a little slot in it like that, the cable goes right through, and then it's going to be taken on and off without any trouble at all, just like that. That's it. I've got all the throttle linkage stuff all done. I've got a return spring. One thing left is to test it and see if it works.
I will say when you've got it done. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's find out if it returns. Uh-oh, it doesn't close. It's stuck.
It was getting stuck before, but you had to do it, Freiberger. You had to do it.
Works great, Steve. Thank you for engineering that. It looks good. I finished up this half of the plumbing to take fuel to the carburetors, and I gotta say, I'm actually really proud of it. It came out great. And that's why I've got a little bit of vanity, and I'm gonna wait till tomorrow when I can come up with another red and blue fitting for the other carburetor before I put that side together. So I'm gonna start fiddling with a few other things here. And here's something that's kind of weird. We noticed there's no radiator cap on our radiator, and it is lower than the top of the engine. And when you have that situation, you've got to get the radiator cap above and the fill point above the top of the radiator. And the way I'm going to do that is with this part right here from Moroso, which is a thermostat housing with integral radiator cap fitting. And it is going to be a pain in the neck to get that cap on and off right there. It's a nuisance, but it's kind of a necessary evil in this situation. And fortunately, they make that part. I got myself an MSD Pro billet distributor. We're gonna have to tune it up just a little bit, which I'm gonna do before we find out if it's gonna fit in the engine without removing the blower. First thing we have to do is remove the steel gear off of it and put a bronze gear on because we have a billet solid roller camshaft that requires the distributor gear to be softer than the cam. So Steve, push that pin out. Knock down that pin. What was I referencing there, Steve?
That was Ronald Reagan saying, tear down that wall to Mr. Gorbachev.
All right, as you may know, the springs here determine the rate of the mechanical advance of the distributor. We're gonna get to that in a minute. But first, I'm gonna change the bushing that sets how much sweep is inside the distributor.
Where did the instructions go?
Ah, you can't do 10, Steve.
No?
18 is the smallest that they'll go. The advanced stop bushing, black, 18 degrees of swing. We need 30 total. So if it's got 18 degrees of swing, we start at 20, it's gonna go to 38. We can't have that.
The problem we have is there's too much advance even when we put the biggest limiting bushing that MSD supplies the distributor with, and you can't even custom make a bigger one because it won't fit in the machinery here. So what I'm gonna do is weld that up a little bit so that I can limit the travel with the weld, and then I can use the black bushing, which normally provides 18 degrees of mechanical advance, and I'll shoot for limiting it to about 9 degrees. That'll allow us to run 21 degrees initial for 30 degrees total.
All right, now we're ready to drop it in. I've already got the engine set at 20 degrees before top dead center. The piston's moving up on the compression stroke of the #1 cylinder. So I'm gonna be able to line up the tip of the rotor with the mark that I made on the housing that indicates the #1 cylinder on the cap. That should be the right way to go. Please go in.
Oh, that goes in no problem.
Yep. Problem is, I can't see. Might have dropped in perfectly.
Did it drop all the way?
Oh, yeah. That is perfection, Steve. That went right in. All right, we're out of here. Tomorrow, headers are going to show up. We're going to install the transmission. We're going to make the water pump work.
We'll fill it up with water, we'll put oil, we'll see why the valve covers are loose, and then we'll fire this thing up and drive it. Boom! We're out of here.
Good morning, Steve.
Well, it is a good morning because this is going to be the big step forward that I've been waiting for.
No, I don't really want to crawl under and install the transmission, but we're going to.
I do.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
I want to progress the car.
I do too. This is Wednesday. We got to get it running by Friday for a drag strip appointment, like later on down the road. You know how I've argued this thing is sort of street strip?
Yeah.
Do you think it might be just a little bit biased towards the strip?
Yeah.
Well, there are compromises. So Yank made that torque converter for me in like no time flat.
Okay.
I told him the specs and everything, and I told him I wanted 4,000 stall.
Well, 5,000 would be more my number.
Yeah, for a drag race car, but I wanted to be able to, like...
Drive it around? That's really practical with that thing.
I know, it's a lie. This looks to be a 10.5-inch converter. One of the things you have to pay attention to when you're putting a converter in one of these custom adapter bell housings is that the converter clears the bell housing itself. You also have to make sure that it fits on the flex plate. I hope it does, because the flex plate's bolted to the engine. I have lubricated the snout so it doesn't tear the seal, and I have filled the converter with fluid.
You got to make sure that torque converter goes clotonk all the way in. Yep. Otherwise, you can really break stuff.
There's one. There.
Oh, pretty good converter drop,
That was all the way, baby.
Yeah.
Yep. And it does clear the inside of the bell housing.
Okay, let's put this on the transmission jock and get it in position.
Okay, is it gonna go?
Well, maybe if you rotate it towards the passenger side at the tail.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Oh, I knew that would work.
All right, Steve, install it.
It's got to be pretty close now.
Give me an alignment bolt. You good?
Yep, that's started.
Okay, that's a pretty good alignment bolt right there. We got 2 bolts in the bell housing to the engine, so we're home free on the trans installation. This is our first peek at the underside of the car because I'm about to put the drive shaft in. You can see here that it's got a full 4-link rear suspension and the whole tub job. Obviously, we've got our aftermarket subframe here, then there's a subframe connector that comes through the floor and connects to this brace that goes all the way across the car. Very typical Pro Street construction or drag car stuff. This bar is called a track locator. It keeps the axle from moving side to side. And then up top here, we've got a sway bar. It's a torsion bar type. The rear end housing is a strange unit based on a Ford 9-inch. Thing is, I don't know what gear ratio is in it. And so right now, we're gonna find out. Steve is out there, he's gonna rotate the tire 1 full revolution. As he does that, I'm gonna count how many times the pinion goes around, and that's gonna tell us our gear ratio. Ooh, 5, it's a 513. This apparently has 513 rear gears, and even with these really tall 32-inch tires, that's gonna be way too low for my blown big block that only wants to run to about 7,000 RPM. Not gonna work. This is the old shifter that we just removed, and basically, I don't understand it. This is the biggest problem. I don't know how to get it out of neutral, and it was just sort of hinky. So we removed it, and we're gonna install this B&M Pro Stick, which I'm very comfortable with. It's about the same as a Hurst quarter stick. The reason that I picked this is because the gate plate can be changed so that I can shift it from being a 4-speed or a 2-speed or a 3-speed forward pattern or a 3-speed reverse pattern. And that's what's critical here, because honestly, I don't remember if that Turbo 400 has a forward pattern or reverse pattern, and I'm just gonna have to install this and find out. And if I get it wrong the first time, I'll take this apart and change the plate, and we'll be good to go. First thing I need to do is drill holes in the floor to mount this and install a cable and run that down to the transmission and put an arm on the transmission and bolt a bracket on and then figure out how to make it shift cleanly. And it's just gonna take a little bit of doing. I just finished up installing an automatic transmission shifter. It's really solid, Steve.
Oh,
like
great.
Bam, bam, bam. I really like it. So we're gonna go for header fitment number 2. Remember, I had some 2¼ inch hooker headers, and they were not gonna fit this chassis at all.
Hopefully these fit.
Okay, so that's where the header goes. You wanna go eyeball the steering column and put it in the right position?
The column needs to go there.
Okay, we are within shooting distance of making this happen. Steve did something trick. This is the coupler that goes on our steering column, and the bolts were a little close to the header. So look how he countersunk the bolts so that they would be flush. Trick. All right, now I'm just gonna throw it on here for mock-up. There it is. Installed. All right, cross member's done, trans mount's done, shifter's done, transmission's done, except for the nightmare dipstick tube. This is the exact moment where I discover if I can get a distributor cap in and out of the car with the engine and transmission installed completely. Ah, whew! That was easier than expected. I'm happy.
We have this compact Power Master starter. Now, it's compact because it's a permanent magnet starter like most late model cars come with these days instead of a field winding starter. That makes it more powerful and smaller, which is a plus anytime you have headers. We've got plenty of room, so I'm gonna go and put this in right now. That starter is installed.
I just finished up the spark plug wires and discovered that this passenger side header is great. It clears everything except for the number 4 spark plug itself. So we're gonna have to dent in a header tube. And so Steve is making a tool right here out of a piece of round pipe. And then this is gonna be an implement that we can smack in order to put a nice semicircle dent in the tube. No one is better than the Dulcich at last-minute tool fabrication. But then again, it's my car, so I'm bashing it. It's kind of the rule. Destruction falls to the car owner. Oh, that's a beefy header. That's way beefier than the last one we had to do this to. Ready?
Give it some more octane.
Yeah?
Yeah. That was a good one.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, look at that clearance. All right, off the list, finally.
I'm making myself comfortable here in the car because I'm going to be here for a while. The thing is, this switch panel holds some important switches, one of which is the fuel pump switch, which is broken. Now, it's not very serviceable because it's held in with a whole array of nuts and bolts with the nuts on the backside. I think my object here is going to be to make that more serviceable so I can remove that panel and replace some of those plastic switches with better ones.
Next, I'm gonna have to mess with the blower drive in order to mount an alternator and the water pump. Right now, this has no spacers on it. It's as far this way as it's gonna get on this particular engine that I can't fit a regular water pump. So I called BDS, Blower Drive Service, and I got all the spacers that I need to move everything 1 inch out and add the V drive, and that will allow me to hang the alternator, and then conveniently, my Mazira electric water pump will fit also. I've got the 1 inch spacer now on the upper, and there's the 1 incher for the idler. I won my moment of truth with the distributor cap. Now we find out if the blower belt clears my electric water pump, now that the belt is spaced out 1 inch further than it was before. Will or will it won't? Yes, perfect. Let me mention one thing about this. I'm doing the right thing the wrong way. The right thing to do is obviously the 871 supercharger. The wrong thing to do is to run the belt on this side of the idler pulley. In other words, I've got the teeth of the belt going up against the pulley. That's not good. You should have the tensioner or idler on the back side of the belt pushing like this. But if I do that, then the belt hits the water pump 100%. So this is gonna be my compromise. It'll make a little bit of rubber dust there, but it'll work. Now it comes to the alternator. I have to find out if it's gonna run off that V-groove pulley that I just put on there, and if it doesn't, I'm in trouble. I got this Billet Specialties Trick Way Too Good For Me bracket that is gonna hang the alternator down low on the driver's side, and I got the regular replacement Duralast alternator. I got the alternator installed. It's actually beef. I'm really happy about it. And I'm about to put on my Mazira electric water pump. You know, people have asked me, can you run an electric water pump on the street? My opinion is yes, as long as it's a Mazira. This is good stuff. I've run them on a lot of things and I trust them. I always get the 55 gallon per hour unit. Is it gallon per hour or gallon per minute? Oh, it's gallon per hour for sure. The other thing here that's kind of trick is the Jessel belt drive. Instead of having a conventional timing chain, this is more like a belt that you would find on a modern overhead cam engine or something like that. And the reason they do that on race vehicles is it imparts less crankshaft harmonics into the valve train or the camshaft than it would with a chain. The real advantage to me is that you can loosen up these nuts and change the cam timing without having to rip the whole thing apart. Anyway, that's what that's all about. Let's install our water pump.
New battery going in. Oh. All right, that's a fit.
Transmission dipstick time. I, of course, ordered a hard tube, like a stock replacement one, and you know that didn't fit, right? They never do. So I had to go to the flexible braided one, and if you're like me, you've installed a whole bunch of these, and the tube is so small that you'd rather schedule a recreational colonoscopy than try and get fluid inside the transmission. It's torture. However, I just bought this low-car locking one, and low-car is usually what I use, either low-car or Moroso dipsticks, and they're so small you can't get fluid in them. This thing is actually like a Dash 6 hose, and it has plenty of room inside. It's gonna fill up way more quickly. Also, look at the locking dipstick here at the end. Ooh, locked in there. Drag strip legal, and comes right out. Next, check this out. This is the bottom end of the dipstick where it goes inside the transmission, and boom. You know why you can take that off? Because this means you can install this part in the transmission and then install the stick later instead of battling the stick while you're installing this part. But wait, there's more. I actually like this. This is the little rubber grommet you've seen a million times that goes inside the transmission to seal the dipstick. This has a nut that goes in from the underside and retains it and squishes that deal a little bit to lock it into the case so that it doesn't leak. Can you tell I'm actually kind of excited about this? I've never had it before. It's gonna be great. And then I was like, I never actually mount these dipsticks to the firewall. I always zip tie them to something. So I'm looking around where to zip tie, and what do I notice? But 2 tech screws that, yes, are in exactly the right bolt pattern to mount the dipstick. I'm unreasonably excited about my transmission dipstick.
I was going to use the copper gasket on the leaky drain plug, but the thing is, I had to look at the bottom of the pan. It had a tiny bit of distortion where the drain plug goes in, so I decided to switch to this thicker Teflon, which has more conformability and will guarantee a leak-proof installation. We give you the details you don't get on Texas metal.
Fans. Steve's working on the electrical panel in there. I'm handling details up here. I gotta lock down all the blower pulleys, put the belt on, wire the alternator.
Fire, fire.
Fire? Still?
No.
What'd you smoke?
This panel shorted out.
Yeah. You want a blower belt to have some slack because aluminum expands when it gets hot, so that when the engine's at temperature, you've got the cylinder heads, the intake manifold, and the blower itself going this way, and so it can pull the belt too tight once it expands. But this thing is gonna be such a flopper, I think I'm gonna live with it the way it is.
The switch panel's in. Now I'm going to try it all out. First, I'm going to try the fuel pump, nothing, water pump, nothing, and fan, nothing. That's just the way I wanted it because I hit the master switch, and now fuel pump works. Water pump's not hooked up, but I'm assuming that works. And finally, the fan. Ooh. It all works. I'm going to give it the double thumbs up, and I'm going to move on to something else. Master off.
Here's the Pro Street part of the program, big, fat, hairy meats. This is a Hoosier 14.5 wide by 32-inch tall slick. I had Mickey Thompson's on it before, and I really wanted to get those again. And it's weird, these were a slightly different size, even though the spec was the same, which is something you need to know. Different tire manufacturers will advertise the same sidewall rating, but the tire is actually a different size. The wheels I got here are 15 by 14 Weld Pro Star, kind of a 90s kind of wheel. Not what I would have picked, but I got them. Here's a couple of things to pay attention to here. I had these mounted at a local tire shop, and I think they put too much air in them. They seat at a maximum of 40 PSI. You really don't want to take a slick and give it more than that. I kind of think that they did. I also noted that the valve stem is pooking out of its hole and a little cracked. So I'm not gonna be able to race on these. I'm gonna have to take it apart again and fix that. You really wanna pay attention to things like that because this is gonna be a fast car. I mean, ultimately it should be in the 8s in the quarter mile. I don't expect it to do that right now with the wrong gear and converter and stuff like that, or the streetable converter, probably running the 9s, but nonetheless, it's fast and you want to be safe. To that end, the other thing I've got going on here is the poor man's beadlock. You know how every guy's got to have beadlock wheels these days to be like super cool? Well, this is the way we used to do it, with Moroso rim screws. You drill a hole in your wheel, you tap it, which is an important step that I forgot the first time I did it in the 80s, and then you screw it through here and it goes into the thick part of the bead of the tire, and it prevents the wheel from spinning inside the slick when the car hooks up really hard. And when you install these, you really don't want to use power tools because you can strip out the threads really easily, and you want to kind of feel what's going on and just barely seat these screws in a way that they will never fall out. About like that.
I'm gonna hop under the car and change the filter and the oil, and then this thing's gonna be ready to run.
Here's another thing you should know about setups like this. Instead of having like a regular wheel lug stud, it has what's called a drive stud. A typical lug nut has either a taper on it or a shank that centers the wheel on the car. This doesn't have that. Instead, it has a large 5/8 diameter stud, and it has a sleeve that threads over it, which is what goes into the holes in the wheel and drives the tire. And so it's a little bit different than sort of a conventional street car setup. And when you use that, you've also got a big, thick aluminum washer like this, and typically a big lug nut with a 1-inch hex that holds that all to the wheel. Got it. This is it. After all this work, we're gonna find out if this thing runs and if every system that we've touched actually works. Electrical, water, leaks, fuel, timing, everything. We're just gonna bark it to life because we still don't have enough fluid in the transmission, and I need to get a timing light and everything. We just wanna see if it works.
Master power on, ignition. Okay, it fires.
Oil pressure?
It was way up there. It's still at 20 now.
Okay. It fires up and runs, and I would say pretty good. Now we have another couple of hours into like messing with the timing, filling up the transmission, checking tire pressure, making sure everything works. And then the next time you see us, we're gonna be at the drag strip. As promised, we're at our home away from home, Famosa drag strip, and we're gonna run the Nova.
Oh, you got a tower of big block blown power here, so I mean.
You can't lose.
Yeah,
I'm completely relaxed too because I've got no expectations.
Wow, I've never seen you so calm, Freiberger. What's come over you?
I don't know. I almost can't be disappointed unless something breaks spectacularly.
I think it's gonna be pretty reliable.
Yeah. Let's recap what this is. It's a 555 cubic inch big block Chevy. The star of the show is, of course, the Blower Shop Supercharger. It's got 7 pounds in it right now, a pump gas tune-up. It makes more than 1,000 horsepower. I think it was 1,040 or something like that. It runs to 7,000 RPM. Transmission's a Turbo 400 with a new Yank converter, and it's a Gearstar Turbo 400. The rear end's got 513s in it. That's one of the things that's gonna hold us back today. I can only run it to half track with 513s.
Yeah, it's geared too low, but you forgot to mention like the key player, I mean the name.
The tunnel cram?
The tunnel cram.
I said the star of the show is the blower, but of course, the supporting cast is the Profiler tunnel ram underneath the blower. That's pretty great.
A pretty unusual combination, a tunnel ram with the supercharger.
And it's the first time you've seen it with the scoop on it, which is, in fact, that much taller than the roof line.
It looks the part.
Yeah, tunnel cram. I drained the water out of it because it froze last night, so let's roll it over to the water box, fill it up, and then
this should be good.
okay, second gear.
Not a lot of smoke. That is Okay, so he ran a 590 at 122, first time out of the chute. I guess he was happy enough to kind of stay in it. So, man, the car looks like it's gonna work.
Wow, this thing blower surges a lot.
That was just a Sunday drive. All he did was step on the gas pedal and boogie down the track.
No drama there.
That looked like a Sunday drive, buddy.
Totally.
Yeah.
No issues. Wow, that's a bottom 9. It went 5.9 to the 8th. I basically didn't even drive the car. That was great. That's already deep in the 9s. It needs to go 570 to be in an 890 kind of range.
Yeah.
Looks like we'll get there.
I think so.
Man, that was easy enough.
Yeah, I know. It was, like I said, it looked like you were just taking a Sunday drive. The car works great.
Do it again?
Sure.
Okay. Come on. I'm gonna try no trans brake.
Little tricky to stage on all that lower surge. There he goes. Okay, we cut a couple of tenths from our off the trailer pass. Now, David was all over the rev limiter on the 1-2 shift. That cost a lot of time, but it ran faster than ever. That was a 5.725. Who knows? You get a good clean pass, this thing may run 550s.
Everything's okay, but I was all over the rev limiter. The tach is way, way wrong. It basically doesn't work. So that's a bummer. This car needs a lot of little shakedown stuff here and there. I feel it's a pretty good success, though. Let's go see what that ran. All right, my cleanest pass ever, 565.
That's pretty good.
Especially considering it was an absolute casual drive to church out of the hole.
Oh, I know. You just walked it off the line.
What was the 60-foot time?
1:4.33.
Yeah, this thing has potential to be way quicker.
I know, and it's not slow. The thing,
no, it's not.
The thing hauls, you know.
It's pretty brutal, but I feel like there's no reason to keep flogging on it because there's a whole bunch of stuff I want to fix.
Yeah.
Like the converter's probably wrong. The gears are absolutely wrong.
Right.
I don't think it's ever going to hook up with the low first gear set in a Turbo 400 and 513s. It really needs a standalone transmission cooler because it's in the radiator and the trans is getting way hotter than the engine.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's no good. The tach not working, that's just ridiculous.
Still.
Me having buttons floating all around, that's just ridiculous. Standard roadkill stuff.
But I mean, for a first shakedown run and the car's running that quick, I mean, that's an 8-second car as it is in raw form.
So a 565 in the 8th mile is about an 880-ish quarter-mile pass.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you're a tool if you claim an 8-second car based on an 8th mile time.
Oh, no.
We gotta actually do it.
Yeah.
So if I get my act together and actually run 8s, maybe you will see it on a future episode of Roadkill Garage.